The next bit after ruku is Sami Allah liman hamida. This is called Tasmee, the Sami Allah and Tahmeed. It probably would have been easier had I wrote them both separately, but I'll see if I can do them both together. Saying Sami Allah liman hamida, okay, and Rabbana lakal hamd, or Rabbana walakal hamd, or Allahumma Rabbana walakal hamd. Okay, so these are important for the Hanbali madhab, because Hanabila, they consider Tasmee and Tahmeed from the 8 wajibat. If someone leaves them intentionally, he will do sajda sahu. The others, they don't consider them from the wajibat, and it does not invalidate his salah even if he left them intentionally. But because of the importance in the Hanbali madhab, it tells you that they are important. Now, when we read salah, there are 3 possibilities. You are reading alone, you are reading as imam, you are reading as ma'moom, a muqtadi, behind imam. So if you are an imam, the ruling may be slightly different to when you are behind imam, or if you are reading alone. When you are reading alone, all madhahib say you should do both. You should do both, okay? With exception that Hanabila, they say you must do both. Yeah? So that's done. The alone person is easily done. Imam and those who follow him, Sami Allah liman hamida, Rabbana lakal hamd. Imam will always say Sami Allah liman hamida. Every madhab agree to that. Okay? No, none of the madhab disagrees with that. The Imam will always say Sami Allah liman hamida. The disagreement is whether the ma'moom will say Sami Allah liman hamida or not, or whether Imam will say Rabbana lakal hamd or not. Yeah? Shafi is very easy. Shafi is Imam, Ma'moom, Munfarid, he will do both all the time. Okay, keep the Shafis aside, because for them there is no question. Everyone must do Sami Allah liman hamid, Sami Allahu liman hamida, and everyone must say Rabbana lakal hamd or walakal hamd or similar. Okay. For Ahnaf, for Hanabila and the Malikiyya, they say the one behind Imam doesn't need to say Sami Allah liman hamida. The one behind Imam doesn't need to say Sami Allah liman hamida. Imam will say Sami Allah liman hamida, and people will say Rabbana walakal hamd. Yeah, so what's left? Would Imam say Rabbana lakal hamd himself or not? Ahnaf and Hanabila and Shafi'ah, they will say yes. Maliki say no. Imam will just say Sami Allah liman hamida, and the people will say Rabbana lakal hamd only. What are their proofs? There's a hadith from Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قام إلى الصلاة يكبر حين يقوم ثم يكبر حين يركع ثم يقول سمع الله لمن حمده حين يرفع صلبه من الركعة ثم يقول وهو قائم ربنا لك الحمد. In this hadith, and there is also a similar hadith, same with the Rabbana walakal hamd, which this is muttafaqun alayhi hadith. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Hurairah said, radiallahu anhu, when he used to stand for salah, he would do takbir. When he stand, he will do takbir. When he goes to ruku, he will say Sami Allah liman hamida when he stands up, and then he will say Rabbana lakal hamd when he stood straight. Yeah? This is for that's what Shafis take, and they say Shafis take that and they say, well, when Nabi Sallallahu did all of them, so everyone must do Sami Allah and everyone must do Rabbana lakal hamd. So what about the others? Others they say similarly, but they say Imam will say Sami Allah and he will say Rabbana lakal hamd as well. Okay, but he will say it quietly, except with Maliki. How do we know Imam will say Rabbana lakal hamd? The hadith we did last week was أربع يخفيهن الإمام التعوذ والتسمية. This is أعوذ بالله and بسم الله and تأمين والتحميد. The Ameen and ربنا لك الحمد. So from that Ahnaf and Hanabila, they say that Imam will say Rabbana lakal hamd like Shafi'iyah. Malikiyah, they say that Imam will say Sami Allah only and people will say Rabbana lakal hamd because of the hadith. There is a hadith that when Imam says, it's a muttafaqun alayh hadith. When Imam says Sami Allah liman hamida, say Rabbana lakal hamd. Malikis take from the hadith that it says when Imam says Sami Allah liman hamida, say Rabbana lakal hamd. But the others say just because the hadith says Imam say Sami Allah, say Rabbana lakal hamd, doesn't mean the Imam wouldn't say Rabbana lakal hamd. Because there is another hadith which says when Imam said Dhalin, إذا قال الإمام ولا الضالين فقولوا آمين. It doesn't mean the Imam won't say. So the others, they don't take it like that. But that's all the view regarding. The safest thing is that you say it. Now, the people behind Imam, should they say Sami Allah liman hamida?
You said no. Yeah.
Huh? Only Shafi said they must. Okay? But this is behind Imam, yeah? Okay. In summary, Shafi said all should say all of it, Sami Allah and Rabbana lakal hamd. The one behind Imam, the others he should say Tahmeed. Okay? Only, doesn't have to say Sami Allah liman hamida. And Malikis, they say same, but they say Imam doesn't have to do Rabbana lakal hamd, but others say the Imam will do Rabbana lakal hamd. Have I gone too fast, too confusing?
No, it's very fine.
Yeah?
So,
Yeah. Nah.
at what position should you say Rabbana wa lakal hamd?
When your back is straight. Okay? Also, you can say Rabbana lakal hamd, you can say Rabbana lakal hamdu mil as-samawati wa mil al-ardi wa mil ma shi'ta min ba'd. Ulama spoke about it. They said, well, if your congregation is happy with that, you shouldn't prolong it for them. If you are doing it alone, your salah, you should say what you want, whichever dua. There is a longer version of it, and the ulama said it is more preferred a person munfarid should do it, especially if his congregation is not happy with that. Not just addition of mil Rabbana lakal hamdu mil as-samawati wa mil al-ard wa mil ma shi'ta or min shi'ta ma shi'ta min shay'in ba'd. He can even add after that أهل الثناء والمجد أحق ما قال العبد وكلنا لك عبد اللهم لا مانع لما أعطيت ولا موتي لما منعت ولا ينفع ذا الجد منك الجد, or in any other wordings he has learned the dua. But this is for you to do alone. Okay, not to do in every, because you will, if someone in his lunch break and you do in every dua in ruku and sujood and qiyam and if your congregation is happy with it, good enough. But if they are, if in general public on lunch break, I don't think they would appreciate it.